All right, let's talk about the rookie on the grid who just re-signed a contract. Fernando Alonso recently re-signed for Aston Martin, and ever since he re-signed, Aston Martin seems like they've gotten slower. Obviously, we've seen Fernando Alonso get out-qualified by Lance Stroll a couple times, and then this weekend, just a very scrappy weekend from Fernando Alonso, a crash in FP3. The team gets the car put back together. He repays them by immediately going off again in Q1. So he ends up starting from the pit lane. Didn't have a great race, had a fire on his brakes, had 11 pit stops. Not a great race from Fernando Alonso. Definitely one to forget. Should he be confident in Aston Martin's future? And what do you think the rest of the season holds for him?
I want to say that it's just been a run of a couple of off weekends for Fernando, because I know that he is a very competitive driver and he obviously has the desire to win quite a lot. But I do think that, maybe Aston Martin isn't on as aggressive of a development track as, maybe McLaren, Ferrari, maybe even Mercedes. So, we've kind of seen them fall away a little bit, and I'm not necessarily surprised by that, but we haven't, even last year, like in the second half of the season, we kind of saw them fall away a little bit, not be as aggressive in development. So that trend continues. I don't know that it'll be a great season for them, but I think that shouldn't necessarily take away from Fernando's re-signing of the contract. I think it was a good decision by him, and he obviously enjoys being there. And if they can put him with a better teammate going forward, I think that'll help the team dynamic a lot, and it'll push Fernando even more, which I think is something that would be valuable to him.
Man, didn't think Lance Stroll was going to catch a stray in this segment, but there it is. Somehow managed to
collateral damage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I saw a couple things online that was like, is it time for Fernando Alonso to step aside for the younger driver? No, it was 2 bad weeks. Calm down, guys. We've seen over the past years. We've already seen it this year that Fernando Alonso is still performing at the top of Formula One, that he still manages to get the most out of the car. I think this weekend, it was just a bad weekend. I think as Aston Martin continues to slip back, Fernando Alonso is going to continue to try and absolutely bring the most out of that car that he can. And even the best drivers will make mistakes when that happens. And so, you're going to go off on a qualifying lap when you're absolutely pushing to the limit. And so, that's just the way that it goes. I think Aston Martin are in a really unique situation. I feel like we've seen this from them in the past. Even when they were Racing Point, we saw them, design a car that looked exactly like a Mercedes. And then the next year they had to design their own car, and they were slow and developments were weird. And then they show up in 2023 and a lot of their car looks a lot like a Red Bull, and they're quick and they get a lot of podiums. And then they have to develop it themselves, and things get weird. And then they make their own car the next year, and things are still weird. And so I don't know, just that team in developments on their own is just, they're not getting it. They're missing the mark pretty well. Last year they brought a big upgrade package and it didn't work how they thought it would, and they had to revert to the original car. And I'm sure that had impacts on the direction that they were planning on going this year, and we're probably seeing the effects of that. So Aston Martin as a team, I think, have still got some steps to take if they want to truly compete at the front. And if Lance Stroll is catching strays, I might as well say it, get rid of him too. But that's not what we're talking about here. I just think the team still has a couple of operational and technical things to get sorted out if they want to compete at the front. But Fernando's going to be fine. The team will be fine eventually. No need to press the panic button and replace him with Felipe Drugovich from the summer break. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. But yeah, just a bad weekend from Fernando Alonso, but he'll turn it around.
Yeah, hopefully he was able to gather valuable data. I know at some point he had called the race like a race of testing for them. So it's unfortunate that he had that attitude going into it. But when you got a pit lane start, I understand the thinking behind that.
I think he might even turn it around in Monaco. Obviously, last year that was the closest he came to a win, and this year's Aston Martin is a very, very different car. But when it comes to, being perfect and exactly finding the car's limits, Fernando Alonso is one of the best at that. So I would expect a turnaround weekend for him in Monaco for sure.
Yeah, I would too. Maybe even a win. We'll see.
And there's no shot that happens, but it would be crazy. Who knows? Throwing
But if it did, heard it here first.
Yeah, if the Fernando Alonso win does happen, go ahead and listen back here.